Guide, would you choose to come back? This is Robert Manni, host of Guys TV. And this week, my special guest, Anita Moorjani, chose to come back and tell us all about her journey. It was an incredible interview that I really think you're going to enjoy. She's got a new book about empaths right here on Guys TV. You can also catch me on Guys Radio and KCAA Radio here in Southern California every Wednesday evening. Guys TV, Guys Radio, thanks for your support. Okay, Guys Radio, as I mentioned, I have a very special guest today. We're going to do the whole show with Anita Moorjani. She's somebody I really respect and hold in very high regard. She's a New York Times best-selling author of Dying to Be Me, which is her seminal book. Millions of copies have sold of that. And also, What If This Is Heaven? She's a beloved international speaker and has dedicated her life to empowering people's minds and hearts with her story of courage and transformation. She recently published a new book. It's called Sensitive is the New Strong, The Power of Empaths in an Increasingly Harsh World. And so it is. Anita currently lives in LA with her husband, Danny, and now dedicates her life to empowering the minds and hearts of people with her story of courage and transformation. She travels the world speaking her truth about her journey and experiences of embracing change, the power of healing, and the quest to live a full, unlimited, and I put this in capital letters, fearless life. So welcome to Guys Radio, Anita Moorjani.
Thank you so much, Robert. Thanks for inviting me to be on.
My pleasure. Okay, let's start right at the beginning, because the big picture is, for the benefit of the members of our audience who are not familiar with your story, let's start with your inciting incident, if you will. It set you on your current path that's led you to write this new book about empaths. You were dying of cancer and pretty much written off by your medical team in the hospital, and they thought you'd die there before you fell into a coma. Tell us what happened.
Yes, so basically I had lymphoma, which had metastasized. So it was over a period of 4 years, and it was not only terminal, but I was at end stage. So this was in 2006, in January of 2006. So by that point, when I was at end stage, I had tumors the size of golf balls from the base of my skull, all around my neck, under my arms, in my chest, all the way down to my abdomen. And my lungs were perpetually filled with fluid that had to be drained, and they would continuously, again, get filled up with fluid. Because my lungs were filled with fluid, I couldn't even lie flat. If I would lie flat, I would choke on my own fluid. I couldn't breathe if I would lie flat. So I always had to be propped up. My body had stopped absorbing nutrition because of all the tumors and everything. And my digestive system, everything wasn't functioning properly. So my body stopped absorbing nutrition. So I weighed about 85 pounds. My muscles had completely deteriorated and I couldn't walk. I didn't have the strength in my own legs to hold up my weight. I had open skin lesions. And then finally, my organs started to shut down one by one. And I went into a coma, and the doctors basically told my family that I was now in the dying process and I wouldn't even make it through the night. They said I was not coming out of the coma. I probably wouldn't even be alive tomorrow because my organs were now shutting down. My family were, of course, distraught. They were around me, my physical body. But when I went into the coma at this point, I left my body and I could see everything that was happening. So I was no longer in my body, and I was aware of what the doctors were telling my family. I was aware that my family was distraught, but I was aware not only of my family that was there in that hospital room, I was aware of what was going on outside, of conversations that were taking place about me outside the hospital room. So this was happening to me in a hospital in Hong Kong. I lived in Hong Kong at the time. And at the same time, though, my brother, who lived in India, was getting on a plane to try and reach me before I died. And I was aware of this as well. And I remember even feeling that, oh my gosh, I can't let my body die until my brother gets here, or he's going to be devastated. But the thing is that even though I was aware of all of this going on around me, I was feeling amazing, because up until that point, up until the point I'd gone into the coma, I had been in so much pain and so much fear and discomfort. I had been afraid of the cancer. I'd been afraid of the treatments. I'd been afraid of death. I mean, it was just an awful existence I was living up until that point. And now I felt free from all of it. It just felt incredible. I felt light and free and liberated, and it was nothing like I'd ever felt in physical life before. Go ahead.
Let me ask you, in your experience, there was no long tunnel, no white light drawing you through, no idyllic locale that looked like people would expect heaven to look like. Instead, you were greeted by your dad, who passed over recently, and you had sometimes a strained relationship with him. Why do you think he showed up, and why do you think your experience was a little bit different than some other people say they have experienced? Do you think everybody has a different experience, or what? But let's start first with your dad. Why do you think he showed up?
Okay, so I did have a very turbulent relationship with my dad when I was growing up. I never thought he loved me. He was extremely strict, and he showed what you could today call tough love. I didn't know about tough love then, but he disciplined by punishment, never rewarded, never really. He was not like a loving person. He worked hard, was at work every day. So I did not have a good relationship with him. I was afraid of him. He instilled fear in me. And I truly believe the reason why he showed up was because he wanted to show me that actually underneath all of that, he loved me unconditionally. And what was really interesting is that he was the one that told me on that side that I needed to go back. And he was the one that made me understand that it was all the fear, years of fear, living in fear, my life, a fear of everything, fear of not being good enough, fear of displeasing people, fear of illness, fear of everything, that had led me to suppressing myself, my own energy, never being who I am. And that is what actually caused me to become sick. And his message to me was, you need to go back and live your life fearlessly. I feel the reason it was my dad was because he was the cause of the fear in my life, but he was also the one who released me from that fear.
Wow. Well, at first you were given the choice and you wanted to stay. Did you have any idea what was in store for you? You mentioned that everything, including various past lives, were happening at once. It wasn't linear time. It was more everything happening at the same time. Was this confusing, exhilarating? Were you afraid? Were you curious? And was the experience overwhelming, or was it welcoming? There was a lot going on in a very short, quote unquote, period of time.
It was very welcoming. It didn't feel overwhelming there. It's very hard to explain it in linear time, because it's like over here, the way our minds work, we have to put things into a time sequence, but it didn't feel like that there. It felt like I could access all my lives. They were available for me to access. And so it's like, even now, when I'm back in my physical life, it's like all my past lives, I have access to all of them. They're not in sequence. Like, I used to think, for example, that I used to believe in karma and reincarnation in the conventional sense, that what I sow in this life, I'll reap in the next life. The thing is that it's not like that, because all those lives give me an accumulated experience. Like, this soul has experienced all these multiple lives, and the information from all these lives are available for me to access right now. Like, when we tune in, when we have ESP, when we use our intuition, when our guides talk to us, we are accessing information from source. And when we speak about, oh, this is deja vu, oh, I've experienced this before, I know this person from another life. It's true, you do know that person from another life, but we're not being punished for something we've done in another life. That's what I'm trying to say. This life adds to the pool of experiences for this soul. It's all different experiences for one soul, but it's not like the way we think in linear time that, oh, this life I'm going to have to reap the benefits of what I did before. And so that part of the way I think has changed completely. It's more like this life, I want to live it to the fullest so I contribute a lot to this soul. This soul wants to live a full life to add to the pool of everything this soul is doing here. And also you asked me another question earlier about the white light and the tunnel. And you asked, why do I think I didn't have that experience? Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons I believe I didn't have it, and also something that somebody once told me who has researched NDEs, near-death experiences, is that what they have found from their research is that people who die suddenly and unexpectedly seem to go through a tunnel. And so at the end of the tunnel, they see the light, but it's like they're leaving their body like a whoosh. And so it's more because either they're in an accident or they're in a car crash or something like that. But mine was different. Mine was a gradual, slow, painful death. It was very, very slow. It was a slow decline, a slow deterioration. And I didn't just go wham into death. It was like I went into a coma, and then from the coma slowly into my soul going towards death. My body, sorry, yeah.
When you were in that state, if you will, and you say that God is a state of mind, really, or heaven is
a state of being.
State of being, sorry.
God is a state of being. God is not a being, but a state of being.
Well, let me ask you about that. I'm going to go a little bit off my script here, though. I think, when people start working with the notion that God is within and we have the power, and it's very important that people start tapping that power that they don't realize they have. Yet it's also comforting for a lot of people to, have that guy in the sky with the beard that you can rely on, like, oh, God, help me out with this. And it feels like a lot, I think, for a lot of people, wow, if I'm God, all the pressure's on me and I don't feel capable and I have all these flaws and I have all these problems. How do people process and kind of rectify this to live their best lives?
Okay, so this is a great question, and there's a lot there that I can say about this. One of them is that if we think of God as the guy in the sky, the guy with the white beard in the sky, what that does is that it then makes us victims of our circumstances. It means I don't have any authority over my life. I don't have the power over my life. It's controlled by this guy in the sky. So it's not about me creating the life I want. It's about me appeasing that guy in the sky or appealing to that guy in the sky. And what this does is also, it creates a lot of judgment in that when we see someone struggling or suffering, it's like, oh, God must be punishing them, or, oh, they probably don't pray to God. So that belief also creates a huge amount of problems. I can also see that if you don't believe in anything or don't have anything to rely on or turn to, it can also make you feel scared and alone. Like, oh my gosh, how do I deal with this? Who do I call on? So what I learned, so I was one of those people that believed there was a being in the sky or on the other side. And that changed for me, because prior to that, I would pray to this God and say, why am I not healing? What am I doing wrong? And I was continuing to deteriorate. I would be trying everything, but I was trying everything outside of me. It was like, what else do I need to do? And people would tell me that, oh, it's your karma. You need to do more good deeds. It means you haven't done enough good deeds. So I would be doing all this charity work, and how much more do I need to do for this to reverse this? How much more do I need to pray? How much more do I need to serve or do? So when I died, I realized, oh my gosh, we have more authority over our lives than I ever realized, ever. Nobody told me this. It's like, oh, wow, I am more powerful than I thought. I even have I even have some control over my own death. Like here I was even being presented with a choice of whether to go back or not. And I believe some people who die young at some level must have chosen it before they even came here. But anyway, so I will speak for myself though. It felt like, wow, it's not somebody governing over me, but the authority, the power that is mine. The thing is, it isn't just my physical body. And that's where it can get scary if you think that it is just Robert of this physical life or Anita of this physical life who was born here in this lifetime 60 years ago, you know, that I am the one in charge of this life. No, it's not that. It is Anita, the soul, the one who is part of source or part of God. To me, God is all of our consciousness together. And I'm going to use an analogy for this, which I like to use. Do you remember back in the 70s or 80s, 70s, the Saturday Night Fever times, those mirror balls in a disco, those
Sure.
disco balls?
Mm-hmm.
So if you imagine one of those disco balls with all those little mirrors on it, it's like a mosaic of mirrors. And what that mirror ball does is that it refracts light. So you have all these points of light all on all the walls around the room. Now imagine if all these points of light are each of us physical beings. One of those points of light is Robert, one of those is Anita, one of those is my husband Dan, and so on. And if Robert thinks that I have to rely only on Robert, the point of light, to control my world and my life and everything, then you're wrong. And if I think it's just me, this point of light, then I'm wrong. The thing is, what I realized is this point of light that is Anita is refracted from a soul, which is Anita's soul, which is on that mirror ball connected to every other soul. So your soul, my soul, every soul is connected to each other. We're all connected. And all the lives we've ever lived is in our one mirror tile. So one mirror tile that is Robert's soul contains every life that Robert has lived. Anita's mirror tile contains every life that Anita has ever lived. But her current life is the one she's living now, is that little dot of light on the wall. But I have access when I turn inward and I go in for help and I seek help to my soul. I have access to my soul, who has access to information from every life I have lived and information from the entire mirror ball, which means the collective of every life of every soul that exists.
Got it.
Do you see what I mean? That
absolutely
is God. That is God. So when I died, I realized I am that mirror tile. I am a facet of God. And God is not some being. So I'm not begging somebody to make something happen to me. I am turning inward and going, okay, please give me what I need to know to take the next step in my life. That's how you turn inward and get information from the inside out.
Mm-hmm. Perfect analogy. I guess it's similar to we're a drop in the individual drop in the ocean, but we're part of the whole ocean also. And we should never forget that. And so we go inside to tap everything that surrounds us. It reminds me of...
We have access to everything. Mm-hmm. Yes. Sorry.
My teacher, her name was Jeanette Meek, and she transitioned. She was a good friend of Paul Selig's, and she transitioned recently, and we've kept her class going, and everything's great. We know she's still with us. And she came to my wife, who was very empathic, and told her what happened. My wife said, hey, Jeanette, what happened to you? What's going on now? And she said, I'm like a burst of light, all different pieces of light everywhere. So I can be here and there all at the same time. So I can be with you, I can be with Robert, I can be with our class, I'm all part of all these little bits of light that it kind of exploded when I transitioned. So I'm everywhere. And I interviewed Karen Noe, and
yes,
she's great. And she worked with, she taps into Wayne Dyer and asked him, where are you now? And I believe he said that I'm Wayne Dyer as the Wayne Dyer you knew me, but I'm also part of a collective that's much more than me. So I do my best to give you the Wayne Dyer that you remember, but I'm much more than that now because I'm part of all this other stuff. And I actually asked Wayne Dyer to help me with doing the work I do. And I asked him, as you know, we had a couple of disconnects in setting this interview up. I asked him to help me, and here we are.
Yeah, he must have had a hand in it. That's wonderful. And I apologize for any of the disconnects.
No.
I was going through my assistant was just helping me out because we were both getting overwhelmed with the level of work we were doing. Yeah,
we're here. That's all that counts. And thank you. I only brought that up as an example of how these things, these synchronicities can work. It's so wonderful. My special guest on Guys Radio, Anita Moorjani, her big book, Dying to Be With Me, but now she's got a book that's going to be huge. Also, it's called Sensitive is the New Strong, The Power of Empaths in an Increasingly Harsh World. We're going to get to that momentarily, but let's just get back to your story again, Anita. What happened then? You got back into your body. You made the decision to come back. So what happened?
Yes. So what happened actually, so I was given the choice as to whether to come back or not. And I understood that now that I knew the truth, I understood why I had got sick. I understood that we are far more powerful than we have ever been led to believe. And I realized that if I chose to come back, my body would heal very quickly. So as soon as I made the decision to come back, I started to come out of the coma, but even then, like for the first day or two, I was like delirious. I was telling my family that I'm not going to die. It's not my time. Dad's here. And I was saying all this. I had one foot on each side. And the doctors were saying to my family, oh, she's just delirious and it's just the drugs messing with her, but she's still critical. Like they were basically telling my family, don't raise your hopes. She is going to die, because I was saying, I'm not going to die. It's not my time. They were not hopeful, but they saw by the second or third day, I was actually getting stronger. I was getting more coherent. And I was telling them, you can take the food tube out. You can take the oxygen tube off. I don't need these tubes. I'm going to live. I can breathe on my own. I can eat without the nutrition tube. And they were very skeptical. But they started to test my breathing without the oxygen tube, and they could see I was breathing. They were very hesitant to take out the nutrition tube, but I actually said, no, my appetite is back. I'll prove it to you. And so I asked for a chocolate ice cream as the first thing I wanted to eat.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And so in 4 days, they started to notice that the tumors were shrinking, like they had shrunk by about 60%, which shocked them. I think it was by the 5th day. And that blew them away. They couldn't understand it. And I wanted to sit up, and I was like talking. And 3.5 weeks later, they were having trouble finding any trace of cancer in my body. And they were not giving up. They said, this doesn't happen. Cancer doesn't disappear like that. At the end of 5 weeks, they released me from the hospital to go home and live my life cancer-free.
Amazing. Amazing. Wow. When you came, since that experience, do you believe that people have the power to heal themselves now?
I do, but they need to tap in to something that is greater than themselves. It is still it is still through themselves, but it is greater than themselves. I do feel that we are all connected. And I know that you have had that experience once or twice.
Yes.
We are all connected. I also believe, though, that there's a few elements here. We have to want to heal. We have to have an incentive to heal. So, for example, if somebody has an absolutely crappy life, like a really bad life, bad financial situation, bad relationship, no incentive to continue to live, and then they get sick. If they get well and all they have waiting for them is that crappy life, there's going to be less of an incentive for them to get well. Mm-hmm. So the idea is to call on that to help you, not just to heal, but to heal what it is that caused you to be ill in the first place. Because your illness in many cases is your body's wake up. Either it's your body's way of giving you a wake up call, or it's your body's way of giving you a way out of life because life is so bad for you right now.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. So do you ever have any communication with either your dad, Dr. Dyer, or people who have transitioned?
Yes, all the time. I believe they're trying to communicate with me all the time. Them and others. I speak to the other side or my higher and my soul, like my higher self every day. I don't make any decisions without going inward.
Okay. Wow. People are always talking about manifesting. It's on the tip of everybody's tongue. It has been for the last 15 years or so. And I believe people make a mistake in that they're reaching out and they're doing a lot of the protocols that you're supposed to do, but they don't focus on unblocking themselves from receiving and what you call allowing. I think it's critically important. I don't know how that came over me, but I'll give you an example though. I was single for a really long time. I was having a blast in New York as a single guy, but at a certain point I realized I need to do something better because I really want to settle down. And then I had an epiphany and said, make room in your heart for somebody else. And as soon as I did that, I told my mother at Thanksgiving, I said, I'm going to get married. She says, really? Because nobody even asked me anymore. And I said, yeah. She said, who? And I said, I don't know, but next year I'll let you know. And sure enough, I let her know next year on Thanksgiving. And I've been married for 11 years. And it was all because I realized that you have to make room. You have to allow yourself. You have to be open to receiving, to receive. Could you elaborate on that? I guess I'm right, but that's because it was my experience. But what are your thoughts on allowing versus just wanting?
You are absolutely right. You have to make room for it to come in. So it's not about chasing and going after things. It's about allowing what is truly yours to come in. And so what you do is, I always tell people, don't work on going after what you want. Work on yourself being in the position of receiving and being worthy and deserving of what is to come into your life. And so many people, especially those in this genre of work that you do, that I do, where we are into spiritual teachings and things like that, we always give and give and give of ourselves, but we're terrible at receiving. When you're not good at receiving, you don't notice it, but you start to become drained and you find it hard to attract the things that you want in your life. And what you don't realize, it's because your receiving channels are closed. So I tell people, get into practice to allow yourself, to allow gifts to come into your life and just be grateful for them. Don't feel guilty and obligated and all these things that people feel. Just say, this is the way the universe is gifting me. But here's the other key. This is the most important piece though, is that one of the things I learned in my near-death experience that is so important is self-love. I call it self-love, but it's not a shallow kind of love. It is something really deep. It is an awareness that I am more than my physical body. My physical body is just the tip of the iceberg, but I am actually far beyond my physical body. It's like there's so much more to me that has always lived, always will, and has lived many other lifetimes. And so I need to love me, and I need to love all of me, and I need to know that I am worthy and deserving of feeling joy and having a partner or whatever it is. Now, if you don't feel worthy or deserving, or you don't love yourself, and you're not good at receiving, and you always put yourself last, and you're always there for everyone but not for yourself, then you can do all the manifesting programs you want and the law of attraction programs and the vision boards you want, and you'll be wondering, why am I not getting what I want, what I'm putting out there?
Right.
That's because you don't feel you are worthy and deserving, and you don't love yourself. The minute you start loving yourself, valuing yourself, feeling worthy and deserving, when you do that and you open yourself up to receiving, you don't even have to do all the law of attraction programs and manifestation programs. You just will be someone who will receive what is truly yours.
Yeah. That's so fantastic, because we live in a culture where it's like, I do this, I get that. I do this, I get that. I do this, I get that. But then what happens when you don't get it? People get very frustrated and they realize that they think they have to work a lot harder than they do. Now, there's nothing wrong with hard work and putting in the work, but you want to make it some type of joyful experience. But you have to be in a position to allow things to come to you. And I think that's where some people get stuck. But let's move to Sensitive is the New Strong, because I want to have time to discuss that. And it's a wonderful book, The Power of Empaths in an Increasingly Harsh World. Now, you are an empath, but I think you discovered that you are an empath after your NDE. Is that correct?
Yes, I did. I had no idea I had not even heard of the word empath when I wrote my first book, Dying to Be Me. When I had the disease, when I had the NDE, when I wrote the book, even when I met Wayne Dyer, he discovered my story. That whole part of my journey, I didn't even know I was an empath. I didn't even know it was a thing. So then I was like put into the limelight by Wayne Dyer. I was there speaking on stage all over the world. I was on social media posting and doing my thing and writing my book, and wrote my second book. Wayne Dyer passed away. And then I started to burn out. And what I started to notice, and so even though there I was connecting with spirit all the time, I started to feel really tired. It was like I wanted to put a pause on everything that was happening, and I couldn't tell, why am I so tired? And I noticed, for example, that I was starting to close down a little bit. Like I would be affected by critics if people were debunking me or criticizing me, or social media would feel too overwhelming. And I felt, I can't do this forever. I can't just keep doing this. And so then I was guided, and I know it's always spirit guiding me, where I was at a ceremony with a shaman, and the shaman took me aside and actually said to me that I was different. And he said something like, you have a purpose here, but you're not using it to the best of your ability. But to cut a long story short, somebody said to me, you're an empath. And when I heard that word, I thought, and this was maybe in 2016, somewhere there. And so I looked it up, and I read the descriptions, and I read some literature on it, and I was like, wow, that is me. That is really me. And it actually helped me like a lot. And so when I started talking about it, people would say, hey, but when you say you're an empath, you're labeling yourself. You say it's not good to use labels. But here's the thing. To me, a label is something that boxes you in and limits you. But when I discovered I was an empath, it helped me. It actually liberated me. It freed me. So if it liberates you, then it's not a label, it's a description. So I realized that as an empath, what it did was it made me understand that not everybody thinks the way I do. That's the first thing that was like, oh, not everybody feels emotions the way I do. Not everybody feels the pain of the world the way I do. That's when it hit me that when I got sick the first time, not everybody would have got sick that way. It was because I'm an empath and I absorb, like my dad's instilling fear in me. I was more sensitive to it than maybe another person would have been. And so that gave me a whole different perspective, which started my journey on this book.
Do you find, Anita, that let's start with empaths really are very highly sensitive people, and they pick up the feelings of what's going on in other people around them. Do you think that more and more empaths are emerging, if you will, today because of this, for two reasons? One is that sixth sense that you mentioned is kind of opening up a bit. So people are tapping into their intuition and other things. And so there's more empaths and empaths. And kind of the second part of the question would be, do you think there's more females coming out as empaths now versus guys, because there's a shift to because of the gender roles that have been set, that it's not welcome for guys to be as sensitive historically, but as our world and culture shifts back to a more matriarchal system that more and more guys will be becoming self-identified as empaths? I know I threw a lot at you, but.
Yeah, I am hoping more guys will come out and say that they are empaths. That's what the world really needs, for more guys to embrace sensitivity. So a couple of things. I want to just say the difference between being highly sensitive and being an empath is that someone can be highly sensitive, which means they can be highly intuitive and highly aware of what everyone is thinking and feeling. But an empath is not only highly sensitive and intuitive and know what other people are feeling, but they absorb it in their own body. So an empath is like a sponge where they feel the feelings of other people, and they often can't differentiate or separate their feelings from other people's feelings. And so what was interesting, even at the time that I got sick and I got cancer, my best friend who I grew up with, who was like a sister to me, she had just been diagnosed with cancer. And when she got the news, it kind of hit me as if it was me. And had I known then that I'm an empath, I would have done everything to kind of to be aware that, okay, this is her stuff, not mine. But the thing about empaths is that you confuse other people's stuff as being your own, and you take it on as if it's your own. Now that I know this, I know not to do that. And so that's really, you know, where my book helps people. But so that's what an empath is. So I think the reason why it seems like there's more people that are empaths, a couple of reasons. More people are opening up to that. And the reason is because in the past, we have always felt empathy, sensitivity, all these things are weaknesses. We've always said to people, grow a thicker skin, stop being so sensitive. We make people feel wrong for it, especially boys. We tell them, boys don't cry, man up. And so people who are empaths, they suppress it. And the sad thing is, even when a woman wants to succeed in a male-dominated corporation, she feels she needs to be more like a man, which is sad because the world is really, really lacking in feminine energy. Yes. And it's lacking in compassion and empathy. And so I wrote this book from a place of seeing that and seeing how hard it is, because here I was now in the public eye. And as I said earlier, I was struggling. So I wrote that book from a place of wanting to help other empaths who are trying to make a difference in the world, who are trying to make this world a better place for sensitive people, but are struggling because the loudest voices among us are the harshest non-empathic voices. And it makes it really hard. True. And so, yeah. And so as long as we allow, as long as empaths continue to stay silent, our world will always be dominated and leadership roles will always be held by the more aggressive and less empathic people among us.
I think you're spot on.
Yeah, and I think that if we continue this way, we will be on the brink of our own extinction unless empaths start to step up, get out in the limelight, and take on more leadership roles. And I realized I couldn't do this alone. So this book, in a way, is a call to other empaths, like, hey, let's do this together. I'll give you the tools, but we all need to do this because I can't do this alone.
Well, it's a great book. And if anybody out there has a question asking themselves, am I an empath? Anita puts together a list of 20 or 30 questions you can ask yourself and kind of put yourself on a scale of how empathic you might be or might be headed. So it's really helpful. It's a fantastic book. Here's a little bit of a conundrum. We want people to be open to receiving, open to allowing. Yet we also have to be careful, I guess, to ground ourselves and to protect ourselves. Because if you just say, hey, welcome, you might be bringing in some lower entities, lower energies, if you will. How do we deal with that, Anita?
So here's what I tell people is that particularly if you are an empath or you're a highly sensitive person, you need to have one foot on each side. So what I've noticed, for example, highly sensitive people tend to, and empaths and highly sensitive people, we tend to either be fully in the So I call it a six sensory world. So we are basically six sensory beings trying to squeeze into a five sensory world. And here's where many of us struggle, is that many empaths and highly sensitive people throw themselves completely into a six sensory world to escape from the five sensory world. So they become completely celestial, where they cut themselves off from the real world. They struggle. They can't make money. They can't put food on the table. They can't pay their rents. They're terrible at administrative work, you know. So they think, oh, mañana, that'll be taken care of, because they are so in the celestial world. And many of them also struggle with their health because of that. They don't watch what they eat, whatever. They're like, so they're kind of out there. Then you have the other bunch of empaths, the other extreme, who, because they're sensitive, but because they're so entrenched in this five sensory world, are feeling victimized by it. And they're the ones who have become the doormats, the bullied, the downtrodden, the ones that are full of fear. And so they're like struggling in this five sensory world, because they've forgotten that they have this connection with the other side, and they're just fighting against this five sensory world. So we've got these two worlds, so to speak. What I tell empaths is, be aware that your gift as an empath or as a highly sensitive person is that you are able to straddle both worlds. Most other people who are not highly sensitive, highly intuitive, or empaths, they live in the five sensory world. But if you don't like the world that's been created and you want to bring about change, it's not about fighting what they've created, but it is about learning the skill of straddling both worlds, which is, you know, what I have been trying to do since I've had my near-death experience. It really is about knowing I am connected there. My information comes from there, not from here, not from mainstream news, not from people out here. My connection, my information, my guidance comes from there. But I am here now, and I have to live here now, and I have to make a good life for myself and leave the world a better place than when I came here. That is why I am here. I have come here to do that. And so basically that's kind of what I tell people. We have to straddle both worlds.
As people kind of raise their frequency, how can a lot of people, you know, they ask a question to spirit or their higher self, and they get some information, and initially it seems like they think they're talking to themselves, or there's that kind of self monkey chatter going on, and then they get discouraged. I have found that I just started writing down the answer, and then I started accepting. And I always found when I wrote down the answer was different than what I heard. And I followed what I had written down. And I feel it's very important to write it down, write it down, write it down. But I also now am more comfortable with, you know what, my higher self or whatever is talking my language, because that's what I'm familiar with. So I take it as, unless it's disproven, I'm taking it as that is spirit communicating with me. And it's made it a lot easier, and it's made the channel feel a lot more open.
Yes, you're doing it exactly right. Take it as spirit talking to you. And the thing is, know one thing: spirit will never, ever, ever give you fearful messages that make you feel fear. It will not make you. So even if you are in a situation that is where you need to be careful of something fearful about to happen, the message you'll get won't be like, oh, you're going to die. No, it'll be more like, stop right now, like, you know, or move out of the way. And then you'll move out of the way and something will happen and you'll be like, oh my God, it just saved my life. You know, so spirit's message will always be towards protecting you, guiding you, and guiding you towards life and towards health, always. So when you get what you just eloquently called the monkey mind chatter, when you get the fear-based messages, the doubtful messages, that is not spirit. The message that says you're not good enough, who do you think you are, don't be stupid, that's dumb, that is not spirit. Spirit messages, higher self messages, source messages are always, always very uplifting, inspiring. They give you strength. They give you goosebumps. You're like, ooh, I can do this. Oh, wow, that's clear. That it makes you feel good, powerful. It enriches you. It expands your energy always.
You know, that's so great to hear, because I've been asking Spirit, as I meditate daily now, what do I need to know right now? And I keep getting all these uplifting messages. And I'm like, am I just talking to myself? And the other day, Spirit said through me, just ask for whatever you want. Tell us exactly, articulate exactly what you want. Just do that. And so I did. And I know that it's not about getting exactly what you want, how you describe it. It's about put yourself in a position to be open to receiving what's best for you, based on what you have requested.
Yeah, in fact, when you request exactly what you want, what it does is that it's not about saying, hey, I want this and I want this exactly this way.
Right.
It's because what it does energetically is it brings you clarity. So it clarifies in your mind so that you become aligned to exactly what it is you want. And it becomes easier for whatever it is to present itself. It becomes easier for you to allow that in when you have that clarity, which is why you're being asked to describe exactly what you want.
Fantastic. I love this conversation. I'm so thrilled and honored at you being on the show. It just, the time has passed so quickly. And I hope for your next book we can do it again. But the book is Sensitive is the New Strong by Anita Moorjani, The Power of Empaths in an Increasingly Harsh World. Last question, or two, if you will. One is, what is the best tip people can take with them on their day-to-day lives as to how to tap into a higher power and live their best lives? And also then tell us where we can find more about you and your book.
Okay, so the best way you can tap in is to turn off all outside noise. Your inner voice, your higher self, needs the space, the room to be able to communicate with you. If you're getting all your information from mainstream media, social media, other so-called experts, gurus, blah, 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 then there's no room in your space, in your mind space, for your inner self or for source to communicate with you. So you have to create that space by shutting out all the external noise. I just want to say something else here is that when I say that, sometimes people think, but what about if I need help from a doctor, advisor, an authority? You know, should I turn inward or outward? So here's the thing. The information you get from outside is purely data. It doesn't tell you what you have to do or how you should feel or how you should act or what is truth or not true. None of it. Any information from outside, including from a doctor or anybody, take it as purely data, which you have the choice of using or not using. The guidance cannot come from outside. The guidance has to come from up there. The guidance of what to follow, what not to follow, what to listen to, what not to listen to. So your only guru is your own higher self. Don't give your power away to anyone except yourself. Don't give it to me. Don't give it to anyone. Because sometimes when I tell people, don't give your power away, not even to gurus, doctors, blah, 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 they say, but what about doctors? The thing is, even when you go to a doctor, they are using their expertise. They're giving you data. But if it doesn't feel right, go to another doctor. Always follow your guidance. That is your highest guidance. Fantastic. So that's number one. And that's how you live your best life. So particularly now with all this conflicting information coming at you, don't take it on board. Tune in upwards. And then the second thing, how to find out more about me. My website is anitamoorjani.com, and I am on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I also have a membership platform, but for the time being, we have paused on taking on new memberships, but we're opening up again in July.
Fantastic. Well, you do great work. And I have to say, I've interviewed a lot of people, a lot of spiritual messengers and teachers, and nobody surpasses you. I really felt super comfortable. I learned a lot. I'm the interviewer that learns while he's interviewing. So just so you know, and because I'm advocating for my audience, I want everybody to be, we're all getting it at the same time. And you are just amazing. Truly, you are amazing. So thank you so much, Anita Moorjani,
Wow.
for being my guest on
I,
Guys Radio.
oh, wow. Thank you. I'm actually getting emotional as you say that.
Yeah, I hope it's joy because that's what I'm feeling right now. So thank you.
It is. It is. Thank you. And I'm feeling moved. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Great. All right.